big time.
-15.
Respect all, fear none.
Oh, did he belt that one?
Intensity is not a perfume.
It was a no-doubter.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We are up in the bird's nest here at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. I'm Brendan Mortensen alongside Annie Klaff. If you are following along with us on our Facebook and YouTube channels, you would see that we have a whiteboard episode. Everybody loves a whiteboard episode. It means that we're getting interactive in this joint. We are writing something down. And if you have an eagle eye, I don't know if you can see it from this current camera shot, but you would see that there's a third name in the middle of our board here. Today, we are doing a fantasy draft. It has been a big offseason for the Baltimore Orioles, acquisition-wise. Signed Pete Alonso to a big contract, acquire Taylor Ward in a trade with the Angels. So, in honor of that, our theme for this year's fantasy draft is the all-acquisition Orioles draft. And we're going to run through all of the rules and all of that good stuff in a bit. But first, we should probably introduce who our third team is going to belong to, who is drafting our third team. And it is none other than our old friend, Matt Bonaparte. You may know him better as Bones. Bones, hello. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm pumped. Another draft, another chance to show that I know ball. I'm really excited.
This is going to be an exciting draft. This is an absolutely loaded pool of talent. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's good to have Bones back here, too.
And what a lovely scenic background you have for us, Bones.
Thank you. I'm glad you commented on I'm in a winter wonderland.
Not joining us from a Barnes & Noble like Annie usually does.
That was one time, Brendan.
It's most of the time. It's most of the time. All right, Bones. I think we should probably run through the rules here because the rules change a little bit with every fantasy draft we do. Hopefully you're a veteran of the show and you know how these fantasy drafts work by now. It's the three of us, myself, Annie, Bones, will be fantasy drafting teams of Orioles players. Now, the pool of players this time is from this all-acquisition pool, meaning those who have been signed via free agency or traded for after the MLB draft implementation in 1965, which means no drafted players, no Rule 5 drafted players, no waiver claims, and nobody who was signed as an amateur free agent prior to 1965. So that's why you won't be seeing the Jim Palmers and the Brooks Robinsons or the Gunnar Hendersons or Ramon Urias or Anthony Santander. Those types of players will not be eligible for this draft. Our rosters are going to consist of a starting 9, all the position players, a designated hitter, 4 starting pitchers, and 2 relievers. Only a player's stats with the Orioles count after 1965. It doesn't matter if they went on to do great things somewhere else. We don't care about that. We care about the things that you did right here in Baltimore. Longevity and counting stats do matter. This is also always a hot button topic of discussion here in our fantasy draft.
This one gets me riled up.
It really does, because you have to weigh, okay, this guy was with the Orioles for a season or 2. He was an all-star. He put up some great stats versus somebody who was maybe with the O's for 6 or 7 seasons, didn't make an all-star game. You're going to hear arguments about that. This is a point of contention, and it will come up again. And as soon as somebody makes a pick that is, this guy was with the Orioles for 1 season, I'm going to pull this graphic back up, and I'm going to yell at you. It might be me. Who knows?
You're going to pull this graphic back up. You're going to yell at me or Bones, and then you're going to go with your next pick and take someone who was only here for 1 season.
I sure am, and I'm not going to pull the graphic up on myself.
Brendan's mind games, as a fan likes to say.
I believe it was macho head games.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something along those lines. And importantly here, as it is the all-acquisition draft, the value given up in that acquisition does not matter, both in the players that were potentially traded for this guy or in the contract that this player was given. We are not taking that into account.
Also, the acquisition has to be taken from a different organization, so it can't be like an Al Bunbury that signs in free agency after already having been an Oriole. It has to be someone coming from a different org.
That is correct. Al Bunbury spent his career in Baltimore. He signed with the team as a free agent, but he never left the team. And we are talking about guys that were acquired. Bones, do you have any qualms?
No qualms. Annie and I might be taking some single-year guys. You might not get happy about it, but, Annie and I were people of the people. Okay, and we'll see what the Twitterverse decides, the Facebookverse. There's some good names out there, and you can't discount them because they were here for just 1 year. But otherwise, I have no qualms.
No, I'm going to do the same thing. I just want it to be known that it's not my fault. I'm just doing it because you guys have forced my hand. You know what I mean? I'm kind of getting coerced into making these selections.
There's no coercion. There's no coercion.
A little bit of coercion. That is an important rule that you brought up there too, Bones. The teams and their rankings are going to be decided based on your votes. You are going to tell us after this draft on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, on whatever website we make up just for this fantasy draft. Probably it's going to be MASNsports.com. We're not going to make a new website just for this fantasy draft, but we could.
We could.
Anyway, long story short, your comments are going to tell us who has the best team. You're going to type in Brendan, and it's, obvious I'm going to have the best team.
No.
Now, an interesting wrinkle of this year's draft, this is something that I did totally intentionally and didn't forget about last week. It's that we haven't determined the draft order yet. Usually the week before, to build the anticipation a little bit, to get our strategy underneath us, we determine the draft order. We haven't done that yet.
I know, I'm nervous.
This is nerve-wracking. And with a pool of players that is as stacked as this pool of players is, again, totally intentionally wanted to add to the challenge a little bit. It's going to be interesting, the draft positions. I don't really know which one I want. I think the number one pick, I don't want to say it's cemented, but it feels like there's a number one pick there.
I think.
And then there are, 10 blue chip potential guys. Yeah. So the first few rounds are going to be really, really interesting. Annie, would you like to do the honors of picking our names out of a hat? Now, hold on. Quick question. Should we go by whoever is picked first has the first overall pick, or whoever is picked first gets to select their draft pick?
Let's leave it up to Bones.
Bones, any thoughts?
I'm thinking the first selected gets the third pick. So whoever's picked
the third pick?
So whoever takes, I'm just saying, you take name out of the hat, all right, that's third pick, then second pick, and then the last one's first.
Okay.
Some suspense.
Sure. We're going backwards order for a little bit of suspense. Okay.
All right. Are we ready?
You heard the man. Let's go, Annie.
I'm ready to go. I have a question real quick.
Yes, Bones.
Is it a snake draft?
It is a snake order draft. That is important to note.
Okay.
So whoever
Thank you.
has the third overall pick will also select fourth. Whoever has second will select fifth. Whoever has first will select sixth. All right, Annie. You are selecting the person that has the third overall pick in our all acquisition draft.
All right. Ready? I'm shaking because I had caffeine. Never happens. The third is...
Wow, you really folded these.
Myself.
Annie.
Wow, that's a good pick. That's a really good pick.
That's a good pick.
Thank you. Okay.
Annie has been really hampered by the second overall pick in previous drafts.
That was only my first one, I guess. First fantasy draft was last year.
First fantasy draft.
Stuck with the second, which is so annoying. Okay, so this is the second one?
This is the second one, and I'll tell you what.
This is the second overall pick.
Nobody wants this pick because you want to be selecting back-to-back.
Okay.
You do.
If you pick my name, I'm going to be angry, Annie.
Bones.
Oh, it's Bones.
It's all right. It's okay. I'm not worried about it. I could still win this. It's not over.
Annie, could you please just draw my name out of the hat as kind of a ceremonious thing?
Brendan,
thank you. Just like to see my name.
Thank you very much to Alan for letting us use his hat.
Thank you, Alan. Shout out, Alan.
Shout out, Alan.
Okay.
All right, folks.
Jinx.
Are we ready to get going?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I think we are. I've got the first overall pick, which I am pretty excited about. I think there is a trade that should be considered the best in Orioles history. I don't really know how it wouldn't be considered the best in Orioles history. There are some other really good trades, but I think this one is going to take the cake. Now, there maybe could have been a little bit of conversation because this position group is so stacked, and I'm talking about the outfield in this case. And the player that I am talking about, upon getting traded, just, won the Triple Crown and then won the World Series. And that player is Frank Robinson, who is going to be my first overall pick. 827 games with the Orioles, a WAR over 32, 5 All-Star games, and again, that 1966 season. MVP, Triple Crown, World Series, and in his Orioles career, a 944 OPS. He was acquired via trade from the Reds in 1965 So it's right on the cutoff there. But this is the best trade, I think, in Orioles history. And so you kind of have to start the fantasy draft out with Frank Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was also the surefire number one, especially for the nature of this draft's theme. I was recently watching the Birds on 33rd documentary on PBS, and it was actually a great watch, trying to get some extra preparation in for this draft and kind of just for fun. But one thing that was mentioned there, that Gene Woodling, the O's first base coach at the time, said, if we don't win the pennant with Frank Robinson, then all of us should be fired. So he is lucky, and I think that this is probably the number one overall pick by far and away here.
It's got to be. It's Frank Robinson.
Yeah.
It's you can't draw up a better first season with a team than what Frank Robinson had with the Orioles. Bones, that puts you on the clock at number 2. And I would imagine that you will be sticking to a similar position group here, but without picking again until pick number 5, you could go in a few different directions.
Yeah, I'm actually not going to stick in the outfield. I'm going to take a bit of a risky pick here just because there are some positions that are thinner than others on this board, and I want to make sure I've got somebody I'm happy with at every position. So I'm going to go to shortstop here. A position that has a couple of good names, but paramount in those is Miguel Tejada. I will be taking Miguel Tejada second overall. He was with the Orioles for 5 years. His first 2 were definitely his best, his first 3. His first season, he had 150 RBIs, led all of baseball. Second year, 50 doubles, led all of baseball. Third year, 878 OPS. The guy was a menace. He was a 3-time All-Star in Baltimore. We'll take Miguel Tejada.
Yeah, Bones, that's a great pick. I think it's definitely you are playing to the strength of the draft here because you are right. The infield group is a little bit more thin than the outfield group. There are also tons of great designated hitter options. So I think that it was smart to go for a shortstop. I think, at least on my board, the shortstop and third base groups are pretty thin compared to the others because first base has some good options as well. But Tejada, certainly a big power bat to have.
Yeah, I think Tejada falls into that conversation that we are already having of doesn't have as many games played as some of the guys above him, at least that I had above him on this big board. But certainly if you were talking about peak, a 3-time All-Star from 2004 to 2006, 5th in MVP voting in 2004, the peak is certainly there with Miguel Tejada.
Yeah, definitely. All right, that comes to me then, the first 2 picks in a row.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Adam Jones.
Yeah, that's where I thought the second overall pick would go, to be honest.
It's a great pick. No, it's a great pick, you know. I mean, that was probably who I was going for second there, but Miguel's my guy.
Yeah, so obviously trade acquisition here with the Mariners. It was a 6-player trade in 2008, so then obviously Adam Jones went on to play 11 seasons there in center field, a 32.3 baseball reference WAR in over 1,600 games, and then a 777 OPS.
A lot of sevens.
Across his 11 years, 4-time Gold Glover, Silver Slugger in 2013, 5-time All-Star, and then recent Orioles Hall of Famer. So Adam Jones is going to be my center fielder. And then with my second one, this is going to be interesting because there is one player in particular that I could use to round out my outfield early on that has the highest baseball reference for on my list at least. But with the strength of the draft and the infield being very thin, I'm not sure which direction to go. But I think I'm going to go with best player available, and I'm going to go with Brady Anderson.
That is a strong outfield.
That is a very strong outfield.
It's a great pick.
And I'm going to put him in... I'm going to go left field. Yeah.
Okay. About 470 home runs in an Orioles uniform between the 2 outfielders that Annie just selected. Of course, that Mariners trade in 2008 brings over Adam Jones, and he might not be the only one from that trade that is selected in this draft. Brady Anderson comes over from the Red Sox in 1988, 794 OPS, 209 home runs, a 3-time All-Star in 1992, and then in 1996 and 1997. Those are 2 really, really strong picks. I think with number 3 and number 4, I was curious to see what position you would go, but just you double down with the 2 guys that I had as the second and third best players in this draft. So I think that's a really strong start for you there, Annie.
I had Adam Jones last year, too.
Yeah.
So look at that.
Adam Jones, just your guy.
Yeah.
All right, Bones. You are back on the clock with pick number 5. You've got Miguel Tejada at shortstop to start things off.
Any great couple picks right there. Really nice outfield you're building. But I'm going to take a stab at the outfield here as well and go with a guy who was a member of the Orioles 1983 championship team. He was primarily a right fielder, so that's where I'll stick him. It'll be Ken Singleton, who was just a terrific player for the O's. 10 years in Baltimore, 833 OPS in that time, 30 Baseball Reference WAR in that time. A really, really good player and a guy we're happy to have here at Bones Corp.
Yeah, definitely a great pick there. I could tell exactly which direction you were going from your very first words there because, Ken Singleton was also just a player favorite, I think, back in that era as well. So, or I guess fan favorite, not player favorite. Maybe a player favorite too.
Maybe the players loved him too. Who knows?
But look at us. We've all got our right fielders set.
I kind of thought
I think I did the wrong position for mine. I meant to put Brady Anderson in left.
You can put him in one of the corners, and I think that's fine. Yeah, I mean, this is how I kind of anticipated the start of this draft going, with a lot of outfielders at the top.
Yeah.
That brings me to an interesting point here.
Oh boy,
with
I wish Brendan didn't have back-to-back here.
Next 2 picks.
He's got a couple good ones here. I know he does.
There is a world where I'm looking at the pitcher realm and I say, boy, there are 2 really, really good pitchers, and I sure would like to have both of those guys. However, I have a tier list here on my big board, and I have a tier 1 of guys that I have deemed blue chip players. And there's one guy left in that blue chip tier of players, and he is somebody that, as I get later on in this draft, I could move him around to basically any position that I wanted to. Second base, third base, shortstop, left field, center field, or right field. This guy would be eligible to play for me. That's another rule that we didn't mention as well that we should mention, which is that this player has to have played the position that you are drafting him for. You can put any hitter at designated hitter, but you could not draft somebody who only played second base and then put him in right field just because you needed an opening there. But I don't have a problem with this guy because he can play pretty much everywhere on the field, over 1,200 games in an Orioles uniform, a WAR of 29, 2 All-Star games. That's going to be Melvin Mora.
Oh, I'm jealous.
That I take.
It's a great pick.
My pick.
It's a great pick.
Acquired via trade from the Mets in the year 2000. I think for right now, I am probably going to put him at shortstop, but it remains to be seen. Now, the question here becomes, do I double down and just go position player, position player, position player? Because there are a few guys that have a really good WAR, and I could pick them up and add them to the team. Or do I go with one of really the 2 really strong starting pitchers in this draft who have separated themselves from the rest? And I don't think I want to be without one of those 2 guys. Now the question becomes, which one? And I think my answer there is going to be Mike Cuellar. Yeah. 290 games in an Orioles uniform, a 3-time All-Star in 1970 and 71, and then again in 1974. He won the Cy Young in 1969 with over 1,000 strikeouts as an Oriole. He was acquired via trade from the Astros back in 1968. I did not want to go without one of these starting pitchers, and it's really a toss-up as to which one you want to have on your team, but Mike Cuellar is my pick.
Yeah, that's a great pick. And I think it is interesting because there are the 2 top starters on probably all of our draft boards. So Mike Cuellar has a little bit less of a Baseball Reference WAR and a little bit less time than the top one, which I'm sure we will reveal soon. I probably could just say it out loud, but we're going to leave an element of surprise here. And a little bit better of an ERA in that time frame as well. So that's a 3.18 ERA for Mike Cuellar. Also so interesting just going back in these days and 6 decades ago, just what the strikeouts per 9 innings looked like, especially compared to right now.
A little
crazy
different.
How the game has evolved.
It was a different game.
Little bit different. All right, Bones, you are back on the clock. You've started your draft with 2 position players in Miguel Tejada and Ken Singleton. Are you going to go with this other big name starting pitcher that is on the board, or do you go back to the position player Will?
Well, I'll be honest, that was absolutely devastating that you took Mike there. I was really hoping you'd go anywhere else, because that's who I wanted. it makes me feel like I should go after the starter, but also makes me feel like I can punt starter a little bit and just try and pick up some other positions that are a little bit more thin. So, I'll go starter, and I'll take the guy I assume you guys are talking about, which is Scott McGregor.
That's the one.
Pitched his whole career in Baltimore, 76 to 88, part of that 83 championship team, of course, a 1981 All-Star. The guy had a very, very long and successful career in Baltimore, started over 300 games, a 3.99 ERA in his time in Baltimore. So I'll be happy to have him at the top of my rotation. No doubt about it.
Yeah, obviously puts me in a tough position because you guys got the two best starting pitchers on the market in this group, but obviously great signings for both signings.
Yeah, we have signed Mike Cuellar and Scott McGregor.
I've acquired him.
Yes, nice acquisition there, Bones.
There we go.
Thank you.
We're on theme.
I know. So I don't think I'm going to continue that theme of getting starting pitchers because it's kind of a pretty not steep drop off for starting pitcher talent, but it kind of is.
There are a lot of position players that have just really, really good numbers with the Orioles under this stipulation. And then pitcher-wise, there are some good starting pitchers that we are going to be selecting later, but there's not a ton of separation between them. It was really Cuellar and McGregor, and then all of a sudden you're looking down your board a little bit more with guys haven't separated themselves.
So what I'm going to do instead is get some key infield position players. And I'm going to go with BJ Surhoff at third.
Yeah.
That's a 17.7 WAR. You signed as a free agent on December 20th in 1995. Played 8 seasons in an Oriole uniform, just over 1,000 games. He had a .451 slugging percentage in that span, a .792 OPS, and 2 straight 162-game seasons in 98 and 99. And then a .976 OPS in that 1996 year with 3 home runs. Of course, an All-Star in 99 as well. So I'm going to make him my third baseman. And then I'm just going to go with a shortstop in J.J. Hardy. Probably one of the best defensive shortstops in the organization. He had 7 seasons in an Oriole uniform, came in on a 4-player trade with the Twins in 2010. A .690 OPS, so not necessarily one of the better kind of offensive numbers in this draft board, but, still a 3-time Gold Glover, Silver Slugger, an All-Star, and 11 hits in 3 postseasons. So I'm going to go with J.J. Hardy at shortstop and B.J. Surhoff at third.
Some good defense on the team. J.J. Hardy, of course, a 3-time Gold Glover, like you said, 11 defensive WAR, according to Baseball Reference. B.J. Surhoff, good defender as well, but a little bit more known for the bat, .792 OPS, 120 home runs. Bones, were either of those guys on your radar for your next selection?
No, they were not, but I think they were good players.
Yeah. Kind of a win for you.
And it is, but, it's still the Wild West here in this draft. I don't know necessarily where I'm going to go next. I'm looking at my board, and I've got some good options, and I'm going to go for this guy, I believe, as I check his stats one more time.
Know him
well.
Yep,
this guy's a good player.
I bet he is.
This Brendan... you know what? Hold on, wait. Let me compare him to this guy real quick. And I know you're all wondering
this guy versus this
who
guy
that could be. But you know what? I'm going to stick to this guy for sure. And I'm going to go to second base to a guy who did not spend a whole lot of time in Baltimore, but who, is a Hall of Famer.
I know who this is.
A 1990s, staple of the sport, and that's Roberto Alomar, who was a 2-time Gold Glover in Baltimore, 3-time All-Star in the 3 years he played in Baltimore. His first 2 years, he hit nearly .330 each time and .938 OPS in his first season. He at least had a 3.5 B-WAR every time he was in Baltimore in the first season, 5.5. A terrific player and a guy I'm happy to have in that middle infield. That's a slick middle infield I have, by the way. Yeah. Miguel Tejada and Roberto Alomar, I'm happy to have that.
Yeah, that'll do just fine. I'm not going to pull up the graphic on you because Roberto Alomar, very, very good player. But you're right, not a ton of longevity in Baltimore, just 412 games.
3 years, in his Orioles career.
Nothing. It's certainly not nothing. But, that guy put up some pretty decent numbers in his time as an Oriole.
And that's a whole lot of WAR in only 3 seasons.
That's a whole...
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that'll do just fine.
Doing numbies.
Now, again, I'm left in a scenario where there is somebody, my tier 1 of guys is gone. My tier 2 of guys, there's one player left in there. And I know this position is pretty deep, and so maybe I don't need to go here right away. But when you have a chance to add Rafael Palmeiro, you add Rafael Palmeiro. I mean,
that's what I was thinking about.
Over 24 Baseball Reference WAR in his Orioles career, an 886 OPS, 223 home runs, and a 2-time Gold Glover. Rafael Palmeiro feels pretty good to add to the squad. That is an elite player to add to my team here. I've got some pop on the team between Rafael Palmeiro and Frank Robinson.
Yeah, a draft like this, when the board is so stacked, kind of.
Yeah.
It's almost like every time someone takes one, you're like,
I wanted that guy.
I wish he was on my team. But, it's still pretty deep. So
this is a very, very deep position, and so I was almost a little bit hesitant to go there, but I am glad that I did, because that's a really good player. Now, do I go back to a position that doesn't have as much depth versus one that does have a little bit more? I think I will. I think I'm going to go a little bit further down my big board here. Not too far down, though, and just grab somebody that is at a position that I think is going to get a little bit thin, and I don't want it to thin out on me too quickly, and that's going to be Don Buford.
Okay.
And I'm going to put him, I think, at this point, at third base. He is more known for his time in the outfield. I could also put him at second, but he does have some third base eligibility. You guys maybe will dispute me on this a little bit, but he usually just had a handful of games at third base in his Orioles career. So I'm going to put Don Buford at third. He did play the position. I know there were some other guys that I had a little bit higher than Buford, but still, it's a 19 Baseball Reference WAR. He was an All-Star in 1971, won the 1970 World Series, and a 789 OPS in his O's career. He was acquired via trade from the White Sox in 1967. So I wanted to make sure I shored up that third base position.
Yeah, I think that's smart, because the third base is quickly dwindling. So I think that it was smart to go and put Buford in, especially if he's got a handful or more than a handful of games there. 3 World Series seasons. I mean, you can't really beat that in your lineup. Or World Series appearance.
Yep. That's a good one. Now, it does beg a question for me of what is the minimum that a player has to play at a position in order to be considered at that position?
We didn't have a set minimum for this, but if they have played that position, then they are eligible there.
Let's see just how many times he played in third.
Don Buford
So they just have to play it at all.
more third base with Chicago than he played with Baltimore, but he is a third baseman.
Appearances in third. We counting that?
That's not too many.
I mean, it is in my best interest to count it because there are players I'd like to move around the diamond a little bit. So I'll count it. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
He does have 352 career games at third base. I know a lot of those came with Chicago.
Yeah, that's all right.
It is reasonable to think of Don Buford as a third baseman.
Sure.
That's my case there.
I guess so. I don't make the rules here, Brendan.
All right, guys. Before we go on,
that's fine by me.
Before we go to Bones' next pick, let's do a little bit of a reset here now that we have our first bunch of selections. I just made 2 picks. Rafael Palmeiro at first base, Don Buford at third base. I selected Melvin Mora with my second pick. It was 6th overall, and he can play pretty much everywhere. For right now, I have got him at shortstop. My first overall pick was Frank Robinson. I've got him in right field. And then the ace of my team, Mike Cuellar, starting pitcher number 1. Annie, run through your team real quick.
I'm just now realizing that I'm not writing the names out as you are with just the first name initial and
that's
last
okay.
name. But 2 of my guys only have 2 letters in their first names, so that'll be fine. I have at third base BJ Surhoff, shortstop JJ Hardy. I originally wrote down Brady Anderson at right field, but that was a mistake, so I wanted him at left, and I made that switch. And then Adam Jones was my first overall in center.
Okay. Bones, run us through your team here and then make your next selection.
I'm really liking my team so far. We've got a sweet middle infield of Roberto Alomar and Miguel Tejada. I've got a great bat and a good veteran presence because that's when he was on the Orioles in his veteran years. In right field, that's Ken Singleton. And I've got one of the greatest pitchers in Orioles history on the mound. That's Scott McGregor. So I'm really happy about how this has gone for me thus far. Now, when it comes to my next pick, there's a lot of different directions I could go in. With the Don Buford rules of versatility, I can stave off some positions a little bit farther down the line now. I'm deciding whether I want to go for. Should I sure that up?
We've got no this guy versus this guy scenario for Bones right now.
I mean, and that's just classic, isn't it? I'm going to go to first base.
Okay.
And I'm going to take a guy that, especially in recent history, is just an Orioles legend, and especially the peak of his career was absolutely fantastic, and that's going to be Chris Davis for me.
Okay.
Everybody remembers that 2013 season when he hit 53 homers and 138 RBIs, led the entire league in both those numbers, over 1,000 OPS that season, came third in MVP voting. The guy was an absolute menace to face in that left-handed batter's box, and we'll be happy to have his power bat at first base here.
Yeah, that 2013 season was unbelievable from Chris Davis. From Crush.
Yeah,
that's a big...
From Crush, man. Come on.
And he's always an interesting kind of topic of conversation when it comes to these fantasy drafts, because I think it's always the kind of preconception or at least bias that you look towards the most recent seasons or how your opinion was tainted towards the end. And Chris Davis is one of those because obviously he fell off closer to the end of his time as a Major League Baseball player and then with the Orioles too. So I think that overall, when it comes to a draft like this, you have to look at the overall stats and what he did. It was still an absurd war for what his time was after he made that trade with the Rangers in 2011. So I think that regardless of how his season ended or time ended as an Oriole, that you kind of just look at what he did accomplish.
Yeah, his peak was pretty unbelievable, and that's why Chris Davis is the selection there. All right, Annie, you've got two more picks.
Okay. I am going to, because I think I need, it's like a really big offensive bat, but also can provide some defensive value behind the dish. I'm going to go with Chris Hoyles.
Yeah, I was considering.
I knew I should have done it, man. That's where I was going to go.
Sorry, Bones. Chris Hoyles
That's
came
tough.
in a 4-player trade, sending out Fred Lynn, but we're not counting kind of value out the door. But with the Tigers in 1988, played 10 seasons, catcher, also a designated hitter, but a 23.5 WAR in just under 900 games. That's an 833 OPS. That 1993 season was absurd. Almost 7 WAR in just 1 year, a 310 batting average, OPS over 1,000 that year. He had MVP voting in that 93 year. I was shocked that he wasn't an all-star, but then you kind of look back at who was an all-star in those times, especially in that catching position, and that was, of course, Ivan Rodriguez. So you have some tough competition there for the all-star appearances, but I'm still going to take Chris Hoyles because I needed a big bat in my lineup.
Yeah, that's a really good pick. I was considering taking Chris Hoyles at catcher. I just went with the position that was a little bit thinner, but honestly, now looking back at it, I could have just moved Melvin Mora to third base and moved some things around. So Chris Hoyles maybe fell a little bit in this draft, so that's a good selection there. You've got one more.
I have one more, and I think I need to, as much as I want to just take another position player, I think I need to finally dip into the pitching market. And I'm going to go with the next best starting pitcher with Scott Erickson. 7 seasons as a starter, 13.1 WAR, a 4.73 ERA, so not necessarily kind of the most impressive ERA when you just look at the ERA, but still an impressive WAR, 3.62 ERA across 37 1/3 innings pitched in 2 postseasons as well.
Dude posted, led all of baseball in starts in 1998 with 36 through over 250 innings. You're not seeing too much of that anymore. I think that's a good pick there. You were the only one without a starting pitcher in this fantasy draft thus far, so makes sense that you would go with one there. Bones, we're back to you.
It's so tough having the middle pick because you are always sacrificing, like, you can just get screwed on the turn every time. So I have to decide if I want to go back to the mound or if I want to go to the outfield, because I only have one outfielder right now, but
Sure.
that is probably the deepest of the positions, so I could wait on that a little bit. I don't have a hot corner right now, so you're going to want to look at that. And, behind the dish, I think Klaff kind of took the cream of the crop there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm willing to wait on that, because whoever you take, I think I'll just take the other guy. Just walking you through my whole strategy, why not? I think I'm going to go back to the mound.
Okay.
Go back to the mound.
All right.
And I'm going to take a guy who spent, might be a this guy versus this guy situation. Hold on, everybody. Hold on to your hats. We've got a couple of really, really good options here, as I'm sure Brendan and any of you know.
This guy versus
a couple of guys who have, this guy versus this guy's an age-old debate. I've always said that.
Yep.
People might not see this one coming, but I'm going to stick to this guy for now. So I'm going to go with one-time All-Star, whole career in Baltimore, a guy who had I believe he had an incredible splitter, if I remember correctly, and that's Chris Tillman. He was fantastic for the O's in his peak. He had a 2.93 ERA and 15 starts, got hurt that year. 2013, then he had a 3.71, 33 starts, over 200 innings. The next season, 3.34. He was really, really good when he was good. And then in 2016, he had a 3.7 with 30 starts. He was fantastic when he was good. So I'll be happy to put him next to Scott McGregor.
That's a great rotation so far with Scott McGregor and Chris
Hey,
Tillman.
thanks. Appreciate that.
It's a good 1-2 punch. So it comes back to me, and I have back-to-back picks here in this snake order draft. A few different directions I could go. Do I get my second starting pitcher like Bones just did? Nobody's really jumping out at my board to me, but I do have, if I'm just going on my tiers here, I'm down to my third tier, but there are 2 players left on that third tier, and it is 2 players that I could use. I have those positions open. Are they necessarily at positions of not need, but I think there's depth behind them at these positions, but I'm just going to shore them up now with the 2 best players that I have remaining on my board, and those players are going to be Rick Dempsey, WAR over 21 in his Orioles career. He was the World Series MVP in 1983. This is a case of no spectacular individual regular seasons, but over 1,200 games in an Orioles uniform, contributed a lot to the organization. He came over in a huge trade with the Yankees in 1976. I believe we have already drafted a player from that trade. We did in Scott McGregor, and maybe we'll draft another at some point as well. There are a lot of players that came over in that trade. And then the second one, I believe this is the first player where we are dipping into the amateur free agency via the international market, and I'm going to go with Jonathan Scope, who is going to be my second baseman, a WAR of 15 in Baltimore, a 2017 All-Star, over 100 home runs. Good defender, too. Defensive WAR close to 7, according to Baseball Reference. He was signed via amateur free agency in 2008. Those are my 2 selections.
Yeah, great picks. I think those are both the 2 best options for each of those positions after having Chris Hoiles off the board. Don Buford could have gone at second, which would have been nice, but now you have both Don Buford and Jonathan Scope, which makes things difficult for me now that Roberto Alomar and Scope are off the board.
I have a bit of a monopoly on the second base position between Jonathan Scope, Don Buford, and Melvin Mora, who also could have played second base.
I was not expecting that to go this way, because now I am stuck at second base, but I think those make your infield really strong.
Well, that's a later problem for a later day. My infield is done. Rick Dempsey, Rafael Palmeiro, Jonathan Scope, Don Buford, Melvin Mora. That feels like a pretty strong infield. Bones, how will you respond with your next pick?
Congratulations on finishing your infield. That was one of the taller tasks, I'd say. Klaff and I will continue to strive towards that. For this pick, I'm going to go to the outfield. I'm going to go to center field in particular. And take a guy who definitely did not have the prime of his career in Baltimore, but still put up 3.5 really, really strong seasons. And that is Fred Lynn, who manned the outfield for Baltimore from 1985 until halfway up until 1988. In his first year, he had a 787 OPS, then picked it up to an 869, just above 800 the next year, and then got traded to Detroit in 88. but put up a nice, almost an 8 EWAR in Baltimore while he was there, and a guy that we're going to be happy to have. We have a lot of veteran presence on this team, which is something that I like to harp on because, this is going to be a team that wants to win, and guys who know how to win. A couple World Series champs on this team, so I'm happy about it.
You're building a solid clubhouse here, and that's really what's important.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Annie, you've got 2 picks.
Okay. I am at a bit of a crossroads
Uh-oh,
here.
we've got a this guy versus this guy situation.
This is definitely going to be a this guy versus this guy.
Classic. I've been there.
I think I need to step up my pitching game.
Okay.
And in doing that, I'm going to grab another player from that 10-player trade.
You're going to grab another player?
I'm going to grab another guy from that 10-player trade with the Yankees, a historic trade.
Yeah.
In Tippy Martinez for my first reliever and the first
Whoa,
reliever.
we've got a reliever off the board.
It's a good pick. It's a good pick.
11 seasons, a 7.7 WAR, a 3.46 ERA. His 1979 postseason was not great, but in 83 he had just 1 earned run in 9 innings in that postseason, an all-star that same year in MVP voting as well. So I'm going to throw Tippy Martinez in my relief group.
Reliever off the board. It's always hard to tell where relievers are going to go in this sort of
It's tough, but I think it's a good pick.
Especially because it's, I learned last year with my relievers, Brendan kind of hides them in the graphic. So
whoa.
I had
Don't blame the guy that makes the graphics.
Even though I had a great 2 relievers, they were a little hidden. So, but I think
you went back to it anyway.
I went back to it anyway.
All right.
And then
you can make the graphics this year, Annie.
No, I'm okay.
Just going to put the relievers huge.
He's just going to make the
They're going to see the diamond
bigger than anybody.
Yeah.
Adam Jones.
The whole graphic is the bullpen.
Look at it.
And then I think I may need you guys to fill some dead air while I think on my next pick.
I don't know if, man, are we going to be compliant to that, Bones? I mean, she wants to just buy time here. I don't know.
I mean, a guy like me, I've been into this guy versus this guy situation. I understand how Klaff feels right now, so I'm willing to throw her a bone. But that does put it on my plate. I have no idea. I mean, my team needs a catcher, but I think I'm going to wait till the last pick, honestly, to take it now that you guys both have yours.
You certainly could. That's the benefit of drafting the last position.
Yes. I don't know what Klaff's going to go for here, so I'm not going to allude to what I might do in this next pick.
I don't know what she's
going
for.
There's still some players I'm very excited that are still on the board. I don't know who's going to be on the board after this pick, but I hope that I can shore up a couple positions here in my next 2 for sure.
It remains to be seen. Annie is staring at this whiteboard, looking perplexed.
It's tricky.
It's like she's looking down the barrel of a kaleidoscope right now. She's got no idea what's going on.
Wow, what a line from you.
It's tricky because my 2 remaining position players that I need have already been selected for you guys, so I feel like I don't need to rush to those.
I will say though, there's that big old designated hitter spot.
DH.
But maybe you are just.
I could draft a catcher right out of Bones.
Oh, okay. No, I know who I'm going with.
Grasp.
Okay.
Okay.
Strictly designated hitter.
Oh.
In Harold Baines.
Yeah.
That was Hall of Famer.
Yes, part of a 3-player trade with the A's back in 1993. 6 seasons with the O's, strictly designated hitter, like I mentioned. A 9.5 baseball reference WAR, an 881 OPS across 6 seasons. You mentioned the Hall of Fame induction in 2019, and a 99 All-Star, also in OPS over 1,000 in the 97 postseason. So I'm going with Tippy Martinez as reliever number 1 and Harold Baines as my designated hitter.
Baines' transaction sheet for this exercise was also just hilarious to look at because he gets traded by the A's to the Orioles in 93, like you mentioned. He signs as a free agent with the Orioles in 93, signs again as a free agent in 94 with the Orioles, goes to the White Sox for a bit, traded by the White Sox to the Orioles in 97, signs with the Orioles as a free agent later in 97, and then 99 is traded by the Orioles, but then he signs back with the Orioles in 99 before being traded by the Orioles in the year 2000. So this was quite the journey that Harold Baines was on with the Orioles organization.
Snip, snap.
A bit of a snip-snap situation.
Yeah.
All right, Bones, we're back to you.
All right. Klaff takes a player that I was definitely interested in. But there's
It's
still
always good to
talent
hear
on the
from
board.
me.
Yep. This is where, I think might get a little, contentious.
Oh, no.
He might have only played 1 year in Baltimore.
Oh, boy.
But at left field, I'll be putting a man who led the league in home runs. It's Nelson Cruz.
Yeah, here
Boomstick.
we go.
He had 40 homers back in 2014, 108 RBIs, 859 OPS. He was an all-star.
I'm tired of
Seventh
this.
in
Put the
MVP
graphic
voting.
over this man, producer. Bobby.
A fantastic
Put it up
player.
while he's talking.
And
There
he's
it
going to be
is.
playing left field for me.
Yep.
So Nelson Cruz slotting in.
Andy, could you read that second to last bullet point on the graphic here? If you're watching on YouTube and Facebook, you know what graphic I'm angrily yelling about right now as Bones selects Nelson Cruz with absolutely no shame.
Brendan, I'm going to stand
No
in
shame. You got the
solidarity.
league in homers.
What?
I'm standing in
put up
solidarity
Thank
with
you.
Bones because
Thank you, Annie.
I put Nelson Cruz as my DH in last year's draft, and I got the exact same spiel from Brendan about longevity
Yeah, you
mattering.
did, and you'll get it again.
And then he goes.
Listen, you know what
and
else matters?
Corbin Burns
40
the
homers.
Next round. So, I think
Wow.
Bones, Nelson Cruz is a great selection.
This is a mutiny.
Terrific player.
I think having him last year helped me stay in a tight race with Brendan for the voting last year as well. So.
Yeah, he's a terrific player, whatever. This is a mutiny.
Terrific player.
I think I've got one more pick left in this episode, but before I do that, let's run through the teams one more time. Bones, you just made a much maligned pick by some, not by others. Run us through your team here.
I love my team, man. I mean, I really love it. I got so much power. I've got so many veterans. I've got so much star power. We've got Chris Davis at first, Roberto Alomar at second, Miguel Tejada at short. The outfield is Nelson Cruz, Fred Lynn, Ken Singleton, left to right. We've got a couple of starters right now. That's Scott McGregor and Chris Tillman. We're off to a great start here.
Yeah, Bones, Miguel Tejada going second overall led me to my third and fourth overall picks in Adam Jones and Brady Anderson, so I feel pretty good about having them two in my outfield, two of the highest WARs on the entire board, so thank you for that, Bones. Then I have Chris Hoyles as catcher, BJ Surhoff at third, JJ Hardy at shortstop, Harold Baines as designated hitter, Scott Erickson starting pitcher number 1, and Tippy Martinez, the only reliever off the board.
I've got one more pick here in this episode, but my team so far, I'm pretty happy with it. My infield is done. Rick Dempsey, Rafael Palmeiro, Jonathan Scope, Don Buford, Melvin Mora. Got just one outfielder, and that's Frank Robinson, and I've got just one starting pitcher, and that's Mike Cuellar. If I've got one guy at those two position groups, those would be the guys to have. Now, which position group do I want to add is the question. Add two. The infield is done. Like I mentioned, there are still some good infielders available. Did I overplay my hand a little bit early on, making sure I got the infielders? I don't think so. You guys can debate that if you'd like to. There are two outfielders available that are catching my eye. I could go with one of them. I haven't dipped into the reliever pool, and I still don't have a number 2 starting pitcher. But I think where I'm going to go is a position that both of you guys have so far. Bones is done in the outfield, and you have two outfielders and a DH. So both of you guys only need really one more outfielder, whether you want to put them at outfield or the DH. But I don't really want to risk that. And this isn't really somebody that I would say is a classic designated hitter. And with my last pick of this episode, we're going to have another episode where we round out these teams. I'm going to go with center fielder Mike Devereaux. 878 games in an Orioles uniform, a WAR of 13. Came in 7th place in MVP voting in 1992. Stole 73 bags in his Orioles career. He came over via trade from the Dodgers in 1989. But a 711 OPS for Mike Devereaux, but he's a center fielder. And he was a darn good center fielder. Defensive WAR close to 4, according to Baseball Reference. I am very happy putting Mike Devereaux in center field.
Yeah, I must say I'm pretty bummed that he is now off the board because I could have put him in my right field, but, I'm happy for you, kind of, I guess. But also another Orioles Hall of Famer, so I think that you have a pretty solid team, Brendan, and I'm a little jealous that you have Frank Robinson and Mike Devereaux.
Yeah,
together.
what can I say? Frank Robinson, Mike Devereaux, a pretty good way to start the infield there, or outfield there, excuse me. So, looking at my team, I need some pitchers. I really do. Are there any pitchers that are separating themselves for me? There's a few here or there, but I don't know if there's one in particular that is
I know what's coming here.
Themselves. I think everybody does, and Annie in particular is not happy about it.
Yes.
But I have a vacancy in left field, so why don't I just get a really, really good left fielder? That's Gary Renicky. 850 games in an Orioles uniform. Baseball Reference WAR close to 16. Like Mike Devereaux, didn't make an all-star game with the Orioles, but still just a really, really good player. 223 extra base hits as an Oriole, an 803 OPS. He was acquired via trade from the Expos in 1977. And with an outfield of Gary Renicky, Mike Devereaux, and Frank Robinson, I'm feeling pretty good about my lineup.
Yeah, that is pretty good. I'm kind of bummed about it again. I don't even know what else to say. It's probably.
Is that your second pick of the turn?
Yeah, that was his second pick of the turn. So
I thought he was going somewhere else for sure. I thought he was leading us to a different player. All right, we got some stuff on the board
now,
that I thought was not going to be on the board.
Will you be selecting that player that you thought I was going to there, Bones?
Yeah, I think I am.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, I do. I think I'm going to select that guy, and I'm going to the mound, and his name is Corbin Burns. He had one season in Baltimore. That is true. One season, but it was an absolutely fantastic one. That's where I thought you were going right there.
Graphic again, Bones. Don't make me do
Go ahead, throw it up. I don't care. 32 starts, 2.92 ERA at a 3.5 WAR. The guy was absolutely phenomenal and led the Orioles to quite a good regular season. And I'm really happy to have him against, put next to my other couple of guys, Scott McGregor and Chris Tillman. We have a solid rotation forming in Bonesland.
I mean, I'll tell you, between Nelson Cruz, Corbin Burns, Roberto Alomar, Fred Lynn, Bones is really leading into this short burst of good seasons.
I'm all about good seasons. I'm all about good seasons.
And you know what? We've got them. That's not a terrible take to have, that you like good baseball seasons. The longevity is important, though. And the voters.
I mean, I've got some of that, too. Some of that, too. Annie, you're up.
You know, I think I like the position that I'm in right now in terms of drafting, because I don't necessarily have to worry about designated hitter. I've got that in Harold Baines. The right field one is a little bit of a tricky decision for me. Like, I could just pick someone that is probably the best player available for right field right now, but I can't really decide if I want to do that or go for somebody else. So I'm kind of going to let you guys decide that for me after you pick your designated hitters, and then I'll kind of see.
That's fair enough.
How fate has gotten me how fate brings me this right fielder.
Fate's doing something.
Yeah, it's doing something. And then I don't have to worry about first base or second base because you guys have already filled that out unless you take someone and make it your designated hitter, but I don't foresee that happening, at least for second base. So I might as well just go straight to pitching again.
Okay.
And we've had this conversation already that it's kind of a drop-off after Scott McGregor and Mike Cuellar. You could go with some players who have a sneaky WAR that might not necessarily be as recognizable on face value, which has been a debate between us on the pod doing this fantasy draft in years past, at least 1 year that I've been a part of it. Or I could go for someone that is more recent and has a pretty good WAR as well, but people would remember him more, I think.
Yeah, pitcher WAR, how are we valuing it?
It's a really good question. So here's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
Because I'm just going to dive in and do one of them.
Sure.
I am going to go with my first amateur free agent signing in Wei-Yin Chen.
Okay.
Good pick.
Almost 9.5 baseball reference WAR in only 4 seasons, so pretty good for that time frame. 3.72 ERA, whip just over 1,200, and 7 Ks per 9 innings. Rookie of the Year, finished 4th in that voting in 2012, and pretty good in the 2012 playoffs as well. So I'm going to go with Wei-Yin Chen as my next starting pitcher. And I'm going to get another starting pitcher as well.
Okay.
Right around.
Double dipping.
And it's going to be Kyle Bradish.
Okay.
Only 4 seasons, similarly to Wei-Yin Chen, but a 7.2 baseball reference WAR. He's obviously had his issues or kind of struggles with injury, but is coming back. Not sure what we'll see out of him in 2026, but this is not a forecasting fantasy draft. This is a what have you done for me lately, comes back and does pretty well.
Well, it doesn't have to be lately. We're drafting guys that played in the 60s, but what have you done for me?
Yes, what have you done for me in 1965?
What have you done for me lately? And by lately, I mean in the last 60 years.
But that's a 3.47 ERA, a Cy Young finisher in 2023. He finished 4th there and came over in a 5-player trade for Dylan Bundy with the Angels in 2019.
Double dipping in the starting rotation. All of a sudden, I'm feeling pretty behind on my pitchers here, considering I have one. Annie now has 3 starting pitchers and a reliever. Bones has 3 starting pitchers. Hasn't dipped into the reliever market yet. Is that where you're going to go now, Bones, or you're going to go to the position player front?
I'm deciding between reliever, starter, and position player right now. Those are the options. I've got a guy
options, yeah.
as a starter. I've got a couple options as a starter right now. One of which would appease Brendan because there's plenty of longevity there, but I'm not really in the market of doing that. Instead, I think I'm going to go for a player who represents a dying breed in the sport, which also happens to be one of my favorite kinds of players, and that is the soft-throwing, crafty lefty. And that's going to be Miguel Gonzalez, who played for the Orioles from 2012 to 2015. And in that time, he was pretty darn good. 3.25 ERA, 3.78, 3.23, and then a 4.91. But he was a darn good player. And I just love the way he threw and guys like him throw, all about soft fastballs and curveballs and off speed, trying to get guys off balance. And that's how they get him out. So I'm happy to have him on my squad, rounding out my rotation.
Dying breed's got to be the worst breed. Yeah, you're done with starting pitchers now, Bones.
Pretty good rotation.
That is a darn good rotation. I'm going to draft a starting pitcher, and I'm pretty surprised that this starting pitcher is still available because he won the Cy Young.
No, Brendan, don't do this.
I'm going to do it.
I didn't pick him last time because I thought that maybe he would fly under the radar.
He's not going to fly under the radar. I know he only started 84 games in an Orioles uniform. I'm not the poster child for you need to have longevity. I'm just saying it needs to be factored into the conversation. And
this guy's backtracking already.
When you win a Cy Young,
Klaff.
When you win a Cy Young, I mean, that is the kind of season.
That's what he does, Bones. He
that
backpedals.
Really overrides this whole longevity conversation. That's Steve Stone. Won the Cy Young.
Very good player.
In 1980 with a 3.23 ERA. Won a league-leading 25 games in that season with over 250 innings pitched. He was an all-star. He was 9th in MVP voting. Cy Young winner as my second starting pitcher. Feels pretty good.
Crazy how low his WAR is for having won.
Pitcher WAR is so hard to determine. I mean, he had a Baseball Reference WAR of 4, and he won the Cy Young. That's okay.
I don't think they were thinking about that back then. I'll be honest with you.
No, I don't think they were. And of course, in 1980, he leads the league with 25 wins. That goes a long way in that era of pitching. Now, there is one guy left that has a really, really good Baseball Reference WAR. He is a darn good position player. I don't need a position player, and this guy is certainly not a designated hitter. I could get a little fancy with my maneuvering. I don't think I'm necessarily going to do that. What I am going to do instead is go with another pitcher. I don't think I need to go with a starting pitcher because there's nobody really jumping off my board that I am really, really excited about. I am deciding between 2 relievers, and I think I'm going to go with the more recent name, and that's going to be Felix Bautista.
Good one.
156 games for the Orioles in his career thus far. That 2023 season, unbelievable. It's a 2.01 ERA in an Orioles uniform, 161 innings, 67 saves, close to 14 strikeouts per 9 innings. He was signed as a free agent in 2016. When Felix is on the mound, he is one of the most dominant pitchers in all of baseball, and I am very happy to have him as my first reliever.
Yeah. Talk about bad luck, unfortunately, kind of like with Kyle Bradish, but still some really nasty wars in the seasons that he was really good. So for Felix Bautista, it was pretty lights out. I would say definitely one of the better relievers on the entire board, and I was just glad that he counted in a draft like this of acquisitions. So that's a great pick there.
Shout out Felix, under the radar acquisition. because you kind of think of him as coming up throughout the system, but that was still an acquisition by the Orioles. All right, Bones, your starting rotation is done. You have a catcher at third base at designated hitter, and you need 2 relievers. Which direction are you going?
There are many directions to go as I stare at my big board right now, and I think I'm going to go this way to a guy who was an all-star in 2016, a reliever who goes by the name of Brad Brock. From 2015 to 2018, he was a darn good reliever out of the O's bullpen, a 2.72 ERA in 2014 to 2018. I mislooked. 3.18 when he got there, then a 2.72. Then he went down to 2.05 with a 10.5 K per 9, a whip just hovering above 1. He was really, really good when he was good, and he was great on the Orioles. So, first player in my bullpen's a good one.
Yeah, that is great.
It says a lot about the quality of player where Brad Brock and Felix Bautista are names that are going this late, and also that they're the second and third relievers off the board. There are a lot of quality relief options.
Pretty sure that was my relief group in the fantasy draft last year when Brendan hid the relievers on the graphic.
I did no such thing. You've seen the graphic. You've approved the graphic.
I don't know.
You can make it this year.
Went through the Klaff approval.
No, that's great. I mean, your pitching group, Bones, looks phenomenal.
That's strong. It's a strong.
Appreciate that.
Group.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to round out my pitching group because I think that my pitching group needs some more oomph compared to my position players.
Okay.
I don't really have to wait. I don't really have to jump off the board for my position players right now because of the way you guys have drafted. So I am going to, I'm going to go with Dennis Martinez as my last starter. I was kind of toying between maybe Trevor Rogers, get another 1-season wonder out of there. Hopefully he can do the same in 2026. But I think that I want a little bit more longevity, as Brendan would say. So Dennis Martinez signed as an amateur free agent from Nicaragua in 1973, 11 seasons with the Orioles. He kind of was a little bit of a hybrid, had some starts, had some relief outings as well, but a 4.16 ERA across that time frame. He was a Cy Young finisher, 5th in that Cy Young finishing vote in 1981, appeared on MVP voting. He led the 1979 season for innings pitched in the American League with 292 1/3 innings.
Well, thank you guys. This is very nice. I don't have to draft any starting pitchers until my last 2 picks.
Yeah.
That's a nice luxury.
Same with my position players.
That's true. That's true.
So I have Dennis Martinez as my final starter. And then I'm at another crossroads.
Oh, boy.
With my...
It's a this guy versus this guy.
It's a this guy versus this guy. We're always at crossroads here.
And I'm just going to go ahead and air my qualm in my brain right now so that I can talk it out loud.
We've got a qualm.
We've got a qualm.
Okay.
Or not really a qualm, just more of a mental debate. So I'm toying between the next top reliever in terms of Baseball Reference WAR in B.J. Ryan, 2000 to 2005, a 7.7 WAR, a 3.54 ERA, and an All-Star in 2005. Or I go with
very good player.
Or I go with someone who's just kind of fun in history. And that would be, where am I now? I've lost it.
I thought you had this guy teed up.
I did, and then I lost it.
Oh, no.
Klaff just out here throwing out her options.
Stanhouse. Not necessarily one of the better WARs, just 2.3, but a 3.26 ERA across 3 seasons, and probably one of the best nicknames that Earl Weaver has created. He called him Full Pack because of the anxiety that induced for him during his outings, because he would load the bases. Earl Weaver would smoke an entire pack of cigarettes because of the cardiac arrest, and then he'd clear and get the save. So I think that is the only reason I want to draft him.
Sure.
But
that's a strong.
That is
I like that idea. That's good.
Idea to draft someone, but I think I'm going to go with B.J. Ryan instead.
I think that's probably the correct draft pick, but boy, that is a strong case.
I don't even remember who I drafted. Oh.
To select someone.
I did Dennis Martinez.
Dennis Martinez, B.J. Ryan, your 2 picks there. You need a reliever and you need a few position players. Where are you going here?
I'm going to take a reliever here.
Okay.
When it comes to the relievers in this draft, it's a real this guy versus this guy situation. There are a lot of names. Yeah, a lot of those this draft. There are a ton of names that are very good here, but I'm going to go with the all-time leader in games played by a pitcher in terms of the entire MLB, not the Orioles. But this man played from the Orioles from the age of 38 to 42. From 1995 to 1999. It's Jesse Orosco, who played very, very well for the O's in relief. Had an ERA that sat around 3 in 1997 at 40 years old, had a 2.3 ERA. Came in and got the job done. I'm happy to have him on my squad.
Yeah, that's a good one, Bones. I feel like the top relievers are all off the board. I mean, that would make sense because there's only one reliever spot left, but I think, man, you just round out your pitching group and it looks really good.
Bones, you are done with your pitching group. Annie, you are done with your pitching group, which means the only place that I have any competition to draft somebody is in the position player front. I just need a designated hitter. I guess I'll start with a pitcher. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to take a position player with my second pick because that's the only direction that you guys can go in with your next few picks here. I'm going to take the highest ranked pitcher on my board. It happens to be a reliever, and that reliever happens to be Randy Myers. 123 games with the Orioles, an all-star in 1997. That was a really, really good 1997 season. He comes in fourth place in MVP voting that year. 76 saves for the Orioles, a 2.51 ERA. He signed as a free agent in the 1995 season. I was between Felix Bautista and Randy Myers when I took Bautista a few picks ago, and now Randy Myers is my pick.
Yeah, you got lucky there.
Now, I'm going to write him down because my next pick is going to require some writing, and I'm going to get to it in a second. I'm going to write Randy Myers here real quick.
It shows how different baseball was in 1997 to now, where a reliever was top 4 in MVP voting.
Yeah,
right.
Seriously.
What does a guy got to do now to get to that spot from the reliever position?
Ask Zach Britton, I suppose.
Yeah,
right.
I was going to say that.
Now, here I go with a very interesting conundrum. My designated hitter spot is open. If you are following along with us live on YouTube and Facebook, you can see my team on the left-handed side. I have the DH spot as my only position player remaining. There's one guy on the board. I've talked about my tiers a lot in this fantasy draft, my tiers of players, not the tears on my face. There is one player that has just been hanging around in the fourth tier of player that I have labeled really good players. And this is somebody who had a 14.5 Baseball Reference WAR, was an all-star back in 2000, but he's known for his defense, which puts me in a tough position because this guy is not a designated hitter. And so with that first relief pick just kind of being a layup, you guys didn't have any competition there. I've been putting a lot of thought into what I can do on the position player front. And then it hit me. Frank Robinson, obviously an incredible player. He was the first overall pick for a reason. Not particularly known for his defense. Towards the end of his Orioles career, he played a lot of first base. So where could I put Frank Robinson? In theory, I could put him at first base. I could move Rafael Palmeiro then to designated hitter. Now I need a corner outfielder. Okay. Who do I have at third base that didn't play a lot of third, but he did play a lot of corner outfield? That's Don Buford. How about I put Don Buford in left field? I move Gary Renicky to right field. And now all of a sudden, I have a hole at third base. Who fills that hole at third base? The 6th overall pick, Melvin Mora, who can play pretty much anywhere. I move Melvin Mora to third base. And you know what that has opened up, Annie? It's opened up shortstop.
This is a crazy shuffling, by the way. I didn't know we were allowed to shuffle. This is wild.
This is a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo.
Oh, we can shuffle as much as you want.
All this. Listen, I don't know if I buy all this.
Listen, you can go look up that all of these guys have played these positions. They certainly have. This is going to take me a while to write. So
That's all well and good. You drafted him for a spot.
you can yell about this all you want while I rearrange my board.
Good
but you know
Lord.
who was a really, really good defender at shortstop? You took the other one relatively early on in this draft, and he's just fallen too far. Mike Bordick. He was signed as a free
Yeah,
agent in 1996. A defensive WAR close to 10 in his Orioles career, according to Baseball Reference, was an all-star in 2000. He's just way too good to be available at this point. And so I had to find a way to get him on my team. And I do, with a lot of maneuvering. I'm going to have to erase a lot of these names and write them in different positions. If you have any qualms, which it seems like Bones does, you can look up that all of these guys have played these positions because they certainly have.
That's not my problem. That's not my problem.
Bones, you explain your problem while I rearrange.
No, you know what? It's all right, man. We'll put an asterisk on you. It's all right.
People that were watching or listening to the first episode, part 1 of 2, and then they're just going to see the result when
this
they
is heinous.
are going to be very, very confused when they look at Brendan.
You know what? I need to interject here real
heinous.
quick because I do need to write, but this is just slander that I won't stand for. What did I say when I drafted Melvin Mora 6th overall? I went, you know what's great about this guy is that later on in the draft, I can move Melvin Mora wherever I need to. Don Buford, 3 positions he's eligible for. Gary Renicky.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. My team's better anyway. I'm not really worried about it.
You seem a little worried about it there, Bones.
The only reason
I'm okay.
The only reason I am okay with this is because I think it would be a disservice if Mike Bordick goes undrafted.
Yeah, we're doing this for Mike Bordick, really, at the end of the day.
Mike Bordick. But
shout out to Mike.
It is still a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo that Brendan is probably...
It's a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo. If I had started with these guys in these positions, there wouldn't have been 2 peeps about it. And now that I'm moving it around, now that I'm showing quality managerial skills... new skipper Craig Albanez, if you're watching this.
While you're
I know how to move the chess pieces, man.
While you're at it, why don't you erase Steve Stone and throw him on my rotation? That would be awesome.
Don't know about that one.
I like that.
All right, Bones, you've got the next pick. I'm still doing a lot of writing, so you go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Where could I go? What can I do? I'm going to go with my DH spot. And, in this DH spot, I'm going to take a guy who has a lot of name value. I'm going to take a guy who, he might have only played 1 year in Baltimore, but it was a darn good one. And Brendan's not going to like this.
I know exactly who it is.
This.
I think it's a good pick for the record. I don't know
He's
why
a Hall
I'm
of
getting
Famer.
Slandered every which way to Sunday.
He's one of the greatest hitters of all time. And in his 1 season in Baltimore, Reggie Jackson was a darn good player. 5.5 WAR season back in 1976, nearly 30 home runs. 91 RBIs, led the AL in slugging percentage. He led the AL in a whole lot of analytics that didn't exist in 1976, so I'm going to save you the time of explaining what they are. The guy's a fantastic player. You don't need to hear more about Reggie Jackson. He's a great player. Hall of Famer.
Yeah, kind of a crazy history with Reggie Jackson and then joining the Orioles and then coming in a bit late, missing a big chunk, and then hitting... in 853 OPS in 134 games, a 5.3 WAR in just 1 season. That started pretty much late because of some, qualms on both sides when joining the Orioles. So a big name value there for Reggie Jackson.
Name value Bones strikes again. I mean, we're going to have to put in big, bold letters that only their stats with the Orioles count, because otherwise you're looking
People
at Bones'
blow right
team.
by that.
You're looking at Bones'
Don't
team,
worry about it.
And we're looking at Alomar. We're looking at Tejada, who won an MVP, not with the Orioles. You're looking at Nelson Cruz, Fred Lynn, Reggie Jackson. I mean, Corbin Burns. These
You're
are
looking at a
names.
great baseball team. That's all I know.
It's a lot of quality
If
baseball
Reggie Jackson
players.
had played a bad season in Baltimore, I wouldn't have taken him.
Listen,
but he played a really good one.
If we were doing the exercise to go win 162, I'm putting my money on your team. But unfortunately, that's not the exercise. Annie, you're up.
I'm up, and I have another crossroads.
Oh, my goodness. It's another this guy versus this guy situation. If you've tuned into the last 2 podcasts, you're quite familiar with this conundrum.
Yeah. So, and my conundrum is at right field because we have a recently inducted into the Orioles Hall of Fame right fielder or someone that could play right field, but then we also have an absolute dog. In another player who was strictly right field for the Orioles for a short amount of time, but, was just a complete unit and did not take a lot of crap at the plate. So I'm going to come back to there because I have a somewhat easy decision in first base.
Okay.
No, yeah, first base, because my second baseman.
Apparently it wasn't that easy.
My second baseman, I think, can stay, and I won't have to worry about him getting drafted elsewhere. Or do I?
Or do you?
Or do I? Oh. No.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm good. Okay, so for first base, I'm going to go with Randy Milligan, or Randy Milligan's Island, as Chris Berman would say, back in the day. Trade with the Pirates in 1988, played 4 seasons, bringing some right-handed thump into my lineup, an 812 OPS across those 4 seasons, and just over 11 wins above replacement there.
How about a 388 on-base percentage for Randy Milligan, too? That'll do just fine.
Yeah, I'll take all the on-base movement I can get.
There it is.
And I'm going to write that down as I think of my next decision.
We are stalling once again for Annie Klaff as she tries to make her decision. Bones, let's run through the teams a little bit while Annie is adding Randy Milligan to first base. Tell us about your team that's got a lot of big names on it.
Well, it's absolutely elite at the end of the day. I don't know how you're going to get through this lineup if you're the opposing pitcher. You got to deal with Chris Davis, Roberto Alomar, Miguel Tejada, Nelson Cruz, Fred Lynn, Ken Singleton, Reggie freaking Jackson. On the bump.
That is his legal middle name.
On the bump, I still think we've got a lot of good talent. Maybe we went for the bats more than the arms, but Scott McGregor, Chris Tillman, Corbin Burns is one season, Miguel Gonzalez as well, and then in the bullpen, Brad Brock and Jesse Orozco. I mean, we've got some really, really solid players. What positions does Klaff have left?
Yeah, she's got a second base and a right field position open. She is going to fill one of them with her next pick. But I hear you on prioritizing the bats over the arms. I've still got 2 starting pitchers that I need, but I've got Rick Dempsey at catcher, Frank Robinson moved to first base, normally a right fielder, but he played a lot of first base too. Jonathan Scope at second, Melvin Mora over to third, Mike Bordick at shortstop. The outfield, Don Buford, Mike Devereaux, Gary Renicky, and a designated hitter, Rafael Palmeiro. Number 2 and number 3 in the lineup of Frank Robinson and Rafi Palmeiro. That'll do just fine. My starting pitchers, Mike Cuellar, Steve Stone, and my relievers, Felix Bautista and Randy Myers. Andy, tell us about your team and then make your next selection.
Okay.
Don't do so begrudgingly.
It's only because I still haven't decided on my next one. So, at catcher,
I gave you so much time.
I know. At catcher, I have Chris Hoyles. First base, Randy Milligan, who I just drafted. Second base is open. Third base, B.J. Surhoff. Shortstop, J.J. Hardy. Brady Anderson. In left, Adam Jones. In center, right field is open. Designated hitter, Harold Baines. Scott Erickson, starting pitcher. Wei-Yin Chen as number 2. Kyle Bradish, number 3. Dennis Martinez, number 4. Tippy Martinez, reliever number 1. And B.J. Ryan as number 2. I still haven't decided on right field, so I'm going to skip that for now because I don't really have to worry about it. So second base, I'm going to go with probably the last best option for me in Jonathan VR. I would have liked Roberto Alomar, but alas, alack, that's how the cookie crumbles. But I'm still happy with Jonathan VR. You kind of gave up Jonathan Scope in order to get him in a trade with the Brewers in 2018. Of course, value doesn't matter here in what you gave up. But 3 good seasons from him, a switch hitter. He played second base and shortstop, but obviously I have J.J. Hardy at shortstop, so I don't have to worry about that. A 6 Baseball Reference WAR in 216 games. A crazy almost four and a half WAR in just 2019 with 162 games and a 792 OPS. So a great season for VR in 2019.
Yeah, VR had a nice little stretch during a time when this Orioles team was rebuilding, and he was one of the bright spots in that lineup. Stole a lot of bags and was a pretty quality hitter. So Jonathan VR, a nice addition to your lineup. You've got just 1 pick remaining. It'll come in right field, and that'll be your last pick of the draft. Bones, you have 2 more picks. You need a catcher, and you need a third baseman.
Yep, so we're looking at third base here, and I'm between 2 guys. Sorry, there was a fly. Between 2 guys, it's either... See, here's where my conundrum comes of whether or not I want to put a guy who's totally out of position but has played some third base at third base. You are going to sacrifice a lot of defense, but he led the league in homers in one season.
Okay.
I'll just tell you because it doesn't matter. It's either Mark Trumbo at third base, who played, I believe, 6 innings there for the Orioles, or it's Tony Batista, who was a third baseman, who was a decent player.
Wow, not the
I think
two
I might
third
go
basemen I
Tony.
thought you would mention there.
Also, not
No.
tooth either.
I like these two guys. You know, people might value some other guys over them. I like Mark Trumbo because he was a big part of my teenage baseball fandom.
Yeah.
And
that's
Tony
important.
Batista has an awesome batting stance. So that's really where I'm at
Yeah.
mentally. You know, you guys might be looking at statistics, but this is where I'm at.
Cool factor
And
goes
I think
a
I'm
long
just
way.
going to go. Yeah, the cool factor, especially for me, I like the cool factor. I think it's important. And you know what? I'm just going to throw this away entirely because I still want to make my decision, and I'll go over to catcher instead.
Sure.
And I'm going to take Mickey Tettleton,
Yeah.
who was
Oops.
an Oriole for 3 seasons from 1988 to 1990, an All-Star and a Silver Slugger winner in 1989. He had 26 home runs that season. 26 homers as a catcher. That's pretty darn good. Mickey will be my catcher. Fruit Loops indeed.
Yeah, what a fun kind of story as well, where fans would bring boxes of Fruit Loops to the ballpark for him. That's awesome. I kind of wish you had more of that in baseball today, like more specific anecdotes
More
for
Fruit
players.
Loops.
Yeah, or more Fruit Loops. I haven't had a bowl of Fruit Loops in forever, and it sounds really good right now.
It does. Yeah, I mean, those were going to be the 3 catchers. It was going to be Rick Dempsey, Chris Hoyles, Mickey Tettleton. Good selection there from Bones. Kicks the can down the road a little bit on third base. All right, I've got 2 selections. They are the final 2 selections of my draft. First selection that I am going to make, I need 2 starting pitchers, and I have 1 starting pitcher that I have in a tier above the rest. That's going to be Pat Dobson. 76 games for the Orioles. He was an all-star in 1972. Really good ERA in an Orioles uniform, a 2.78 in just over 550 innings. He was acquired via trade from the Padres in 1970. Next pick here could be a dart throw. I can go in a lot of different directions, but I think I'm going to go with a fun one just because I want to go in a different direction with my last pick here. I'm going to take Trevor Rogers.
Yeah, I knew that was coming out of you.
Look, it was one of the best seasons by an Orioles pitcher in history last year. I only pitched in 18 games, but it was a ridiculous 1.81 ERA. That stretch of dominance that he was on, where it just seemed like every time out on the mound, it was 7 innings, 1 earned, 7 innings, no earned, 7 innings, 1 earned. The dude was a horse last year, and I know we're not talking about future projections. I know that he only has 22 starts as an Oriole. I get it. But the 18 games that we saw out of Trevor Rogers last year were some of the best 18 games that we have seen in Orioles history. And as my final selection, it's kind of fun to go with an acquisition that so many Orioles fans called one of the worst acquisitions in Orioles history. And now, you know what? He is drafted in the All Acquisitions Fantasy Draft. So that's how I wanted to end my draft, with someone who, again, that acquisition was much maligned, and now here he is, getting selected.
Yeah, definitely a fun way to end and kind of close out your lineup and roster for this draft and getting Trevor Rogers. And then it's also kind of important to where it was such a complete 180 or 360 maybe 180 where you have Trevor Rogers, who was getting tainted for getting acquired when you gave up Kyle Stowers, Connor Norby. Of course, that doesn't matter in this kind of draft, but he comes around and completely proves everyone wrong, and you hope that he can do the same in 2026. Pat Dobson, another shortly tenured player, but a really good WAR for just 2 seasons, similarly with Trevor Rogers.
Those are my last 2 picks. Bones, you have 1 final selection remaining. It's at third base.
I've made my decision.
Okay.
Okay. You know, Mark Trumbo led the league with 47 home runs in 2016. It's a lot of home runs. Now, the reason I'll be choosing against him is because the 2 innings he played at third base for the Orioles, just 2 innings, came the next season when he just wasn't quite as good. For that
Bones,
reason,
I do really quick just want to throw out the fact that if you wanted to select Mark Trumbo, you have a player on your roster who has more innings under his belt at third
Not the way I
base.
play the game. That's just not the way I play the game, Brendan.
Chris Davis.
Some people play the game that way.
149
I don't play the game that way. Some people play it that way. I don't play it that way.
Chris Davis.
I'm going to go with
third
Tony
base
Batista
eligible.
here.
All right.
3 years at Tony Batista. Actually, it's really 2.5. He had nearly 70 homers for the O's, 228 RBIs. He was just a masher. He was an all-star, of course. He had 31 homers in his first full season, in which he was an all-star in 2002. He is an awesome swing, an awesome stance. If you've never seen it, look it up. It's awesome. So we'll be happy to have it on our team and have him, of course. I think my team's fantastic. I'm really pumped about it. I can't wait to see what the people say.
Yeah, that's a fun one. I mean, my remaining options for third base of people that hadn't been drafted yet were Leo Gomez, an amateur free agent signed in 1985, almost 8.5 WAR in 6 seasons, and Jeff Conine.
Yeah, Jeff Conine is where I thought you were going.
Conine was on my list, absolutely on my list. I had to make the mental decision to say, should I take the guy who has the statistics, or should I go for just fun nonsense? And I went for the nonsense, of course. If you know me, and if you know me when it comes to baseball, that's a decision I'll make. 100%.
Going for the nonsense.
Well, now I'm thinking I should have gone with Nonsense Don Stanhouse, a.k.a. Full Pack.
And maybe you should have.
And maybe I should have, but I didn't.
Alas.
I could go with some nonsense in my final pick at right field, but kind of similarly to me thinking that Brendan, oh man.
There is an Orioles Hall of Famer available.
There is an Orioles Hall of Famer available, and I think I have to take him. Similarly to Brendan, creating lots of shape-shifting in his lineup to select Mike Bordick, I think that I have to take Joe Orsulak in right field, kind of just not only for name value, but also just an all-around great outfielder for the organization. Like Brendan mentioned, inducted into the Hall of Fame recently. He came in as a trade with the Pirates in 87, 5 seasons, kind of experience in both corner outfields and the center.
Yeah, I think you can just slot him right into right field.
Yes.
I don't even think you need maneuvering.
No,
with Joe
I'm not.
Orsulak.
I'm not maneuvering. Don't worry. And
Just me, I guess.
That's just you. And an 8 WAR. I do want to note the other player that I really, really wanted on my team, but didn't have room for is Albert Bell.
Yeah.
Signed as a free agent in 98, only 2 seasons, but just an ultimate ball player, an 882 OPS. Gets hit by a pitch in extra innings and refuses to take first because he wanted to be the person that hit the walk-off RBI.
Dog.
And just was completely like yelling at the catcher to get the pitcher to throw it over the plate, and was ultimately forced to go to first base. But I think that would have been elite to have on my roster. But instead, I'm going to go with Joe Orsulak.
Never a bad thing to end your draft with a guy that was just inducted into the Orioles Hall of Fame. We have mentioned it, but this was just such a stacked pool of players. We wanted to pay homage to the outstanding offseason that the Orioles have had with their acquisitions, both via free agency and via trade. And so there were some really good players that didn't end up getting selected. I mean, Steve Pearce had close to a 6 Baseball Reference WAR season in 2014. Jeff Conine, a batting average close to 290 in his time with the Orioles. Rodrigo Lopez, 167 games with the Orioles. Luke Scott, a guy that I know Bones.
He was on my list. I love Luke
has
Scott.
selected before. 826 OPS, 84 homers. You mentioned Albert Bell, Javi Lopez, Corey Patterson.
Yeah.
There are a lot of good players that weren't even selected because the criteria just included a lot of really good players. Let's go over that criteria again. Let's run through the rules one more time before we go over our final teams and make our final pitch to you, the fans, who are going to decide which of us selected the best team. We each drafted rosters consisting of 9 position players, 4 starting pitchers, and 2 relievers. The eligible players were those signed by the Orioles via free agency or traded for after the implementation of the MLB draft in 1965, which means there were no players like Jim Palmer and Brooks Robinson available to be drafted. There were no MLB drafted players eligible. Sorry, Gunnar Henderson. No Rule 5 draft eligible players. Sorry, Anthony Santander. And no waiver claims. Sorry, Ramon Arias. Only a player's stats with the Orioles count. We do not care if you went to another team and did really, really great things, or if you had a great career before coming to the Orioles. I'm not adding anybody specifically in their draft strategy. I'm certainly not. I would never do that. But we are only considering your stats with the Baltimore Orioles. Your longevity and your counting stats do matter. We are not looking at a player's best 162, but if they had a really nice long Orioles career, we are counting the cumulative stats. And then the value in the acquisition itself does not matter. Whether it is the contract and the monetary value that you gave up to sign that player, or what you gave up via trade to acquire that player. Annie, you had the 3rd overall draft pick. You can start with your team first.
Okay. Want to note, obviously, with those rules, because it is so important that we bring up the rules, because you have players like Al Bunbury, Eddie Murray that don't really count. I mean, Eddie Murray would have counted after he came back to the org, but
there are some stipulations.
It's only like that one season afterwards.
Right.
So important to note those rules when we go through these. So let's see. So am I doing my pitch as well, or am I just reading through?
It doesn't have to be a pitch. You can just talk about your team. What do you like about it? What are the strengths?
All right. Okay, so I'm going to run through first and then go through my strengths.
Okay.
I think I have, I do have catcher Chris Hoyles, Randy Milligan at first base, Jonathan Villar second, BJ Surhoff third, JJ Hardy shortstop, Brady Anderson in left field, Adam Jones center, Joe Orsulak, right field, Harold Baines, designated hitter, Scott Erickson, starting pitcher number 1, Wei-Yin Chen, number 2, Kyle Bradish, 3, Dennis Martinez, 4, Tippy Martinez, reliever 1, and BJ Ryan, number 2. I think that my position player group definitely outweighs my rotation. I think my relief group is very good.
That's probably going to be the case for all of us. I think the position player group was really, really strong. There were some starting pitchers that were at really the top of the big board, but it was a very strong position player
I think
group.
I could have drafted my rotation a little bit better, but I'm very happy with my lineup 1 through 9, and I think that you actually drafting Mike Bordick and moving Frank Robinson out of your outfield makes it, to me, look like I have a pretty solid outfield in comparison.
I mean,
not
you
that
started
yours isn't.
You started the draft with Adam Jones and Brady Anderson. That is a really strong start. And Joe Orsulak is an Orioles Hall of Famer.
2 Hall of Famers there. So very happy with that. JJ Hardy, obviously, surefire shortstop for me. BJ Surhoff had some opportunity for, the outfield or not, but I like him in my infield, and I feel pretty good with Chris Hoyles and Harold Baines bringing some thump in the lineup.
Very strong roster. Bones, tell us about yours.
Well, I just love my team. I've been looking at it, and I'm in love with it. Behind the plate, Mickey Tettleton, Fruit Loops. He'll be catching pitches. He'll be hitting home runs. Fantastic player. Chris Davis is at first. I mean, 53 homers in 2013 is definitely going to help. He's an absolute masher. Next to him, Roberto Alomar, a Hall of Famer. Then we've got an incredible batting stance at third base. Tony Batista, he also hits home runs. Oh, more home runs at shortstop. Miguel Tejada. Oh, let's go to the outfield. Oh, more home runs. Nelson Cruz. We got Fred Lynn. We got Ken Singleton. Oh, let's go to DH. Oh, more home runs. Reggie Jackson. I mean, come on. This lineup, how are you going to pitch this lineup? I have no idea how you plan to pitch this lineup. My pitchers, probably not as good as my hitters, but like you said, I think that's the case for all of us. It's Scott McGregor, Chris Tillman, Corbin Burns, Miguel Gonzalez, 4 guys I really like. And then the bullpens, Brad Brock and Jesse Orozco. I think, all in all, I think this is the best draft I've ever had as a MASN podcast human.
As a MASN podcast human. Yeah, it is a very, very strong draft. There are some huge names on your team there, Bones. I had the first overall pick. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You have more to say about your
Oh, no. Go ahead. I thought you were going to start attacking me for my longevity, which I'll admit, we don't have the longevity that some of these other teams have, but what we do have is good stats. We have great stats.
You don't have the counting stats,
guys.
but again, if we were doing a draft of the strongest 162, I think your team is probably the runaway favorite there with a really, really strong showing of really good individual seasons. I had the first overall pick, and with it, of course, I had to draft arguably the greatest trade in Orioles history, Frank Robinson. Drafted him at right field, ended up moving him to first base. I had some lineup maneuvering just because there was a guy that fell far too much down the board. Rick Dempsey is my catcher, World Series MVP. Jonathan Scope at second base. Melvin Mora shifts over to third. Mike Bordick, defensive wizard, at shortstop. My outfield, I've got Don Buford, Mike Devereaux in center, Gary Renicky in right field. And then, designated hitter, how about Rafael Palmeiro? And you want to talk about great individual seasons? My number 1 starting pitcher, Mike Cuellar, Cy Young winner. My number 2 starting pitcher, Steve Stone, Cy Young winner. Starting pitcher number 3 and number 4, Pat Dobson and Trevor Rogers, with some unbelievable individual seasons of their own. Pat Dobson was 4th place? No, 2.78 ERA in his time with the Orioles. Trevor Rogers, that unbelievable season last year. And then my bullpen, Felix Bautista and Randy Myers. I think these are 3 really, really strong teams. We can quabble about it all we want, but it's going to be up to you, the fans, to decide who has the best team. We are going to post the graphic of all of our teams. Annie is going to get final say over the graphic because she had a lot to say about how those graphics were arranged. But please, let us know in the comments who you think has the better roster. Look over the rules again. We're going to post the rules again. Make sure you are understanding all of the stipulations, and then let us know who you think drafted the best team. But I think that'll just about do it for this week's edition of The Bird's Nest. If you didn't catch us live on our Facebook and YouTube channels, we are live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. This was a special episode that wasn't Wednesday at 11 a.m., but thank you for tuning in anyway. Or you can catch us after the fact on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us here on The Bird's Nest. Big thank you to Bobby Blanco behind the scenes for producing this marathon of a podcast. And a huge thank you to Matt Bonaparte for joining us here on the Draft. Bones, would you like to give a goodbye here before we probably don't see you again here for a while on the Bird's Nest?
I just want to say thanks for having me. I had a great time, and I appreciate you bringing me back. Thank you, guys.
Bones, thank you so much for joining us. For Annie Klaff, I am Brendan Mortensen, and we'll catch you next time.
Quick fix to make here in regards to Tony Batista. Turns out he was a waiver claim. I didn't know this. Nobody knew this. Nobody caught this. It's upsetting, but, it just lets me take a guy who led the majors in home runs in 2016. Does he have a lot of experience at third base? No, he doesn't. Okay? He had played 2 innings, but, well, that's for the Orioles at least. But I'm happy with him anyway. Mark Trumbo is my official third baseman. Thank you. Appreciate it.